So this is quite an impromptu live. I wasn't planning on doing this live today, but the reason I've done it is because I've got some things coming up in June that I won't share today, but I'm a bit excited about. And I think one of the things, I often get a lot of people speak to me about apprenticeships, but no one really knows why I love the apprenticeship schemes and the traineeship schemes. People that may have followed me in the past will probably know, but for me, this was really important today that I shared this with you, because I was thinking about the lives that I've done and the way that I've spoken, and I wanted people to understand that I came from a place when I very first started using these schemes. The reason I got into it is because I was an employer myself, but was just frustrated with the way that not apprenticeships were, but as in the skills and the attitudes and the knowledge that when I wanted to employ people had. And it was something that is now something that I saw happening in 2008 and actually became real. Okay, when I think it's grown, but now what's actually happening within my training business now in the last 2 years is exactly how I saw it happening, and we're developing that all the time. But I think I wanted to share this not just with employers but also with young people, because I think there still is today looking at apprenticeships as being the poor cousin to training, and I think that's really wrong, because there's so many apprenticeships now. You can have an apprenticeship from level 2 right up to level 7 as in graduate, and you can go to university and still do an apprenticeship, as in that you'll go to the university to do your level 7 qualification, but you'll be in a workplace going along the same time. And the great thing about that is you're going to be paid for it. And when I talk to young people over and over again, that has been one of the things that has maybe motivated them. And I just feel that the apprenticeship schemes as they are, okay, if they're done well, and there's always going to be bad stories because there's always going to be people that haven't been treated well, and that's across the board, whether you go to college or university or you go on apprenticeship. And I think we only ever hear about the bad stories. So it's really important for me to do this live today so that everybody could understand why I got into apprenticeships and my journey to actually be delivering apprenticeships as they are at the moment, and why I am so passionate about it. So for me, back in, I think it was 2001, when I was a child, okay, I was a young child, and I lost my dad at the age of 7, and he took his own life. He took his own life, I think, because there was lots of other things, mental health he'd always suffered from. But my mum was also poorly, and she had multiple sclerosis. So people that know me will probably know that. But I became a child carer at the age of 7. So when I became a child carer from the age of 7 to the age of 14, until finally my mum went into hospital and never came out, and I went to live. I was fostered by my grandparents, and the reason we were fostered was because basically we had 3 options: go into care, be fostered, or go as from somebody from the outside, or go into be looked after by nan and granddad. And luckily for me, my grandparents stepped up, and me and my sister went to live with them. But it has had a massive impact in my life, and it's only been in the last couple of years that I've really understood why I'm so passionate about what I do now, and why I love what I do. So for me, in that time, I always felt my grandparents they were business minded. They had their own hotel and were quite successful at that. So when I was 14, 15, and I was making the decisions whether I wanted to go to what I wanted to do for a living, and I mentioned the beauty sector. And the reason I mentioned the beauty sector was because I'd got a little part-time job when I was 12 or 13 in a hairdresser's, and I was a Saturday girl for quite a long time with them, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it. And I used to go out with my dad's best friend's daughter, visiting old people, and she was a beauty therapist, but she's also a hairdresser, and she used to go out and do old people's hair, and I used to just love being with her. I used to be the one holding giving her all the the rollers, all of those things, and I loved it. But my grandparents, because they always saw hair and beauty sector as being poor and not as a profession, which is really sad, because actually I have made, as an older person, more money in the hair and beauty sector than I've made anywhere. So for me, it was like, okay, they pushed me towards nursing because my mum had been poorly. They thought, oh, Sarah's a child carer. That's exactly. They always used to label me as practically minded. I was never very good academically at school. I was all right, do you know what I mean? But I had no interest at school. I was that person that would be sitting in the classroom looking out the window, hoping it's going to be 3:30. I didn't particularly like maths. I didn't particularly like English. But I knew deep in my heart that there was something that I really wanted to do in that sector, and I didn't know what it was at the time. So they dissuaded me. So I ended up going to college for a year, dropped out of college at about 8 or 9 months, still didn't really know what I wanted to do. My sister-in-law, she worked in an office for an insurance company, and there was a job going there in the microfilming department, and that's years ago, so a lot of you won't even know what that is now, but it basically was where you took pictures of files and uploaded it onto the computers. That's what I did, and it was a very mundane, boring job. Absolutely hated it. Taught me loads, because the woman that I worked for as a manager was a horrendous manager. When I think back to what she was like, she was quite scary. She used to frighten me. She was quite a bully, and anyway, I then got moved to another apartment, but it wasn't what I wanted to do. It was like just a job that I would go and do this job, get money in the bank. But being fair, it taught me lots of things. It taught me about being on time. I mean, I went to school. I gave up my college course at the age of 17. And I went into the workplace very quickly. But the skills I learned was punctuality, the consequences of not being on time, making sure that you work as a team, all those things that when you go into a college environment or university environment, you probably don't learn. But I was in the workplace learning those very, very much from a young age. And like I said, right from when I was 13, when I used to work in a hair salon. So from that point, after I did that, I then went into several jobs, what I call mundane jobs. Nothing. I did freight forwarding at the docks. I did, which I blagged, by the way, to get that job. God knows how I actually did it, but I blagged it. Luckily enough for me, someone believed in me. I got taught it and then became quite good at it. And then when I had my first child, which was my daughter Naomi, I left it and I didn't really know what I wanted to do. Anyway, cut long story short, I did lots of different jobs. I went and worked as a receptionist in a doctor's until I finally found, when I did go back to proper work, as I call full-time work, when my son was about 3 or 4. I was doing lots of part-time jobs, but probably about 2 or 3, and I went to work for a cosmetic firm, and I got a job as an area sales manager because in this time, I'd also had a bit of a sales background. So I'd been doing things like on the side, like network marketing, and I had gone in and done things like, so loads and loads of jobs. And children's clothes, sold children's clothes. I think we'd done bouquet, what are those dry flower things, parties. I'd done Silver Neve. I can't tell you how many different businesses that I started them, did them for a short time, and then they didn't work out, and I stopped. So for me, it was like that was, and I went to work in a job, and it was a really good job. I had a really good salary. I had a company car. My job was to go out and it was a cosmetic company where I would take on people that were self-employed. I would show them how to build and sales, and then they would go out and do the same. And I literally went from something like, I think one of my areas was Bexhill, in that area, which is a lot of old people, and I went like from something 450th in the country to say 250th in the country as a sales manager. And then I also then went to my local area, which was Ashford and all around the surrounding area, and that was like 450th, and I got it up to something like 51 in the country. So, and that took me a few years. And so I obviously then found my talent. While doing that, I realized that I was really good at inspiring people to actually go for what they really wanted, and help them then structure that so that they could go out and sell themselves. So it was something I really enjoyed. And obviously the people that I worked for thought the same, because they offered me a regional manager's job, and that was to go to Norfolk and basically go out there and end up teaching other area sale managers to do the same as I did. But it was meant me being away from my home, and it meant me being away like 5 days a week. And at this time I was about 38, so my kids were sort of like just at school, not quite teenagers. They were sort of in that young age, and the thought of leaving my kids away for 5 days a week. I mean, I was very lucky. My husband was brilliant. He was on shift work, and he always supported me really a lot. So he used to help me out loads and loads and loads with, looking after the kids. And we worked as a team, as a partnership, and we've been together since we were 17. So we're a very strong couple, I feel. Not really ups and downs like everybody else. Everyone has ups and downs, but ultimately we work really well together, and he's always been one of my biggest supporters, if I'm really honest. So for him, so I was able to manage my time with my family. But the thought of actually being away for all that time away from him really scared me. And at the Christmas time, there I had an opportunity where I went to actually have my nails done. And I walked in, and the lady was in there, and she was moving to Spain, and she was selling her business. I've never done nails in my life. It wasn't something that I got into because I wanted to be a beauty therapist. I didn't at that point, but I knew I wanted my own business, and I sort of guessed that hair, beauty and nails was going to be something that would grow. And I was good at managing people. So, well, I thought I was at the time. I wasn't actually, but I thought I was good at managing people. But I was always social. I was always good at networking. I was always good at chatting to people, and people. For some reason, I inspired them. So that was good. I thought, well, that's a start, isn't it? Never had any business experience in my life. Turned around and said to my husband, listen, I've got this opportunity to buy this business. It's this amount of money. It wasn't a lot of money, but it was in those days, because I didn't have that money in the bank at that time, because I was working for somebody, and I'd spend any money I got straight away. So I never had any money saved up. And I wouldn't recommend this to people, but this is what I did. So basically I went and got a loan from a bank, a personal loan. My husband said, you can do what you like, I don't mind what you do, as long as you don't involve me. I'll go to my job and work my job. And he said, but I don't want to be involved in it, so if you want to do this, I'll support you, but I'm not getting involved in it. So I said, okay, no problem, that'll be fine. Anyway, so cut long story short, it's not long story, it's always going to be a long story with me if you know me. But he then I ended up taking over this nail salon. She taught me how to do nails in 3 months, which, being really honest, I wasn't ready when she left. Probably, to be a really good nail technician, you need probably a good sort of like 6 months to a year in a workplace doing it. But at that time, I didn't know. I just knew that that's what I wanted to do. So I learned how to do nail services. It wasn't my passion. I didn't think, oh, I love doing this. But all I knew is that it was my own business. And in my head, I was thinking, if I learn how to do this, then I can teach other people how to do it, and then I can build my team. And that was exactly how I thought. I had a self-employed person in the business that came into work, and this is why I got into apprenticeships. She basically came in for 3 or 4 months and then disappeared with the whole of majority of my clientele, because if they're self-employed within your business, it is their clientele, it's not yours. So and she was better than me. She was a much better nail technician. She had more experience, and people went to her. But there was something that people liked about me, and I don't know whether it was just because I was so dogged, as in if somebody left, I was just on the phone to them, ringing them up saying, why have you left? What have I done? Oh, my nails all came off, which was a common theme when I very first started. I said, oh, just come back in, I'll do them for free, I don't want to lose you at the end of the day, it's my fault, I'll do it. And gradually I began to build a bit of a clientele, but I was working on my own, and I found that really stressful. So I went back to my husband and I said to him, look, I really need somebody else to come in and build the team with me, but now I've had this other person that has been with me, and they've taken the clientele. I'm scared to employ anybody that might take my clientele away from me. So he said, okay, took a bit of persuasion. He said, we'll give this a go. He said, but what I don't want to be doing nails all day. And I said, that's fine, I'll teach you how to we'll send you on a course to do body piercing. My body piercing, but because that was more manly, it was more macho, it was more acceptable from and we were talking about in the early 2000s, so it was still men shouldn't be doing women's jobs, that's how it would look, and women shouldn't be doing men's jobs. And I think there was still an element of that when I was at that stage. I think it's completely changed now, and it's a lot further on, still not quite there yet, but we're getting there. So he then went into work and said to them, listen, I'm going to leave my job. My wife has got her business and I'm going to go and work for them. And they all laughed at him because they said, what are you going to do? They didn't understand nail extensions. Actually, at that time, were quite a new thing. It was quite now they're in every single town with 4 or 5 nail bars everywhere. But at that point, there was hardly anyone there. And it's really true. And that's another thing that was taught to me, is that when everyone else is doing it, then it's probably a little bit too late. But when you're doing it for the first time and you're getting in there and doing something, you can build a business very quickly. And that's exactly what happened. So he came in. He went on a body piercing course up in London with a company called Metamorphosis. He's really good at it as well. And we built up a real strong clientele of body piercing, but also with nail services as well. He did more at that time of body piercing, but gradually, as we got busier with the nails and people used to come in, I used to say to him, can you just do that nail for me? And he would do it, and actually was a lot better than me. And if people will be laughing at that now, but he did say to me, I want to sit upstairs, I can't be sitting up in the window, which was where our little salon was. He said, because I don't want people walking past and seeing me. And it was a common theme from people that used to walk in and say to us, oh, how come your husband's doing it? And he said, my wife made me. And we used to have a lot of banter between us. They were always taking the mickey out of us. But in that few years, I built up quite a strong clientele. And then I thought the next way to expand is to bring somebody new in. So it was actually a client that said to me, Sarah, will you train me up in nails? And I said, I'll tell you what, you come and be a receptionist, I'll train you up in nails. You can do my reception and do all of the booking people in, which used to take me time, obviously, because you have to come away from doing somebody's nails. So if I had somebody on the phone that could do all of that side of it, it meant that we would grow quicker. Anyway, she came in, taught how to do nails, and then my team began to grow. So I started employing people, and this is my first time of employing people, which was absolutely horrendous, and I was absolutely rubbish at it. Terrible boss, made all the mistakes that most people make new in business. Didn't treat people that well because I was frustrated and scared about them taking my clientele, because I had that happen to me. So that was my belief, that everyone was going to come into my business and take them. Anyway, built them up, had 4 or 5 people working for me. But what I found was with some people, especially when they came in, they wouldn't stay so long with me. So I just thought there must be another way of doing it. And I could see hair salons having a hair apprenticeships, and people were actually staying, like I could see them starting out at 17, 18 and then becoming, be there till they're like in their late 20s. So I thought, there must be a need for that, because there's no nails. I couldn't at that time find a nail apprenticeship. So approached a local training academy, and they gave me actually a cohort, which is a group basically of 9 apprentices that I could train. I couldn't employ them all myself, so I employed 2 or 3 of them, and then I found some local salons in my area. I wanted to do it, and I trained them, and I trained up an assessor coach. I was an assessor and teacher at that time, which I did my AET. And I started training my own apprentices, but also other people's apprentices in my local town. And we started with 9. The first year we did, every single one of those people went through the apprenticeship program, and actually it was the MVQ at the time, and completed, and we were mentioned in an Ofsted. And from that, I've grown my cohort of people, and then started introducing new apprenticeships. So when I started looking at all different apprenticeships, I began to realise that there isn't just nail apprenticeships. There's nails, there's hair, there's beauty, there's customer service, there's business admin. There's so many other what I call generic apprenticeships out there that people probably don't actually know. There's digital marketing apprenticeships. There's so many different apprenticeships out there. I thought there's an opportunity to look within my own business and actually go, if I want to grow, can I use these schemes? And because there's a lot of incentives around apprenticeship, so if you take on a 16 to 18 apprentice, there is £1,000 towards their training fee, basically, that you get given. If they're older, it isn't, because they believe by that point they should have got the right attitude and skills. In my personal, in my own thoughts, is that there should always be, it doesn't matter whatever age you are, there should be some kind of incentive to help the employers take on the apprenticeships. But I think the way the government look at it, as in, you're getting all this training for free, and it is a lot of money. I mean, a hair or beauty apprenticeship is about £7,000. A customer service apprenticeship is about £3,500, and you're getting that training. And while they're on that, you have the autonomy to pay them the apprenticeship wage at the beginning, which starts at £4.56. Personally, I think that should be higher. I also think that employers shouldn't look at it as a cheap way of labour. And the reason I don't think that, I think young people, if they're 16, I get it, because they're at home and they would be going to college and they won't be earning anything. But if they're older, I think there has to be an element that you agree a different rate. But the apprenticeships you can take on somebody if they're 16 hours to 30 hours. But anyway, so I'm digressing basically. But so what happened is, over that time, I built my training academy using the apprenticeship schemes. But we always had a difficulty with finding young people with the right attitudes. And sometimes we often found people that didn't have the employability skills that went along with it, because especially over the last 10 years, I think there's definitely been an element of people that are not able to go and get a part-time job when they're younger. And I think that is a society thing, where parents and schools and, I don't know, the whole society seems to be trying to protect these young people. But my personal view, and please don't shoot me, this is just what I think that I learned so much from the age of like 12 to, I don't know, 17, 18, by being able to go into a workplace. I think it should be that everyone gets that chance to do that. However, that isn't the case at the moment. So at 16, very often they don't want to, now they have to be in education to their 18. A lot of young people at 16 is not the right environment for them. There are a lot that it is, but if you're academically minded and you want to be a doctor, or you want to go off and do something more on like a scientist or something that's actually like that, I get university and going through the school system, sixth form, is exactly right. But I think if you're going into some kind of vocational or anything like digital marketing, I think actually getting into a workplace from a very young age, and then doing your training alongside being paid, but actually learning all of those skills that you need to learn as a young person, which is attitude, punctuality, what's expected of you, working in a team, all of those things. The only way to get that experience is to actually be in a physical workplace. And if you can do something that you really think you want to enjoy and do, that's great. But there was also this element, because the apprenticeship schemes were like anything from 1 to 4 years, 5 years, from start to finish. And that depends which framework you're doing at that time. there's people very often at 16 don't know what they want to do. So the government launched a thing called the traineeship in 2013, and it was something that I completely loved. As soon as it came out, I thought this is excellent. So it basically gives the young person a chance, okay, to go into the workplace and see what it's like, called work experience, but actually it has to be very structured work experience. So they have to be learning some skills within that workplace. It's not just a case of them making teas and coffees and cleaning. It has to be very, very as in, right, okay, what have you learned today, and structured that way. And you know, we as from my business really thought this is great, because this will then determine that young person will get an idea of whether they want to go down that path, whichever vocation they're thinking of, and they can get a chance. They don't have to stay in one workplace. They can go to several workplaces in that time. But they also will learn some really valuable skills like mindset, motivation, which I don't think is taught enough in the schools. I think there needs to be, especially with mental health being so high on the agenda now, needs to be much more. And next year I'm quite excited, because as part of our traineeship, we're actually bringing in a real mental health part as well, which I think since COVID, a lot of young people have, I think always before, but I think have really suffered from, because they haven't had the normal things that they would do in that age group when you're that age. And that's how you learn. You go out and problem solve. That's why young people suffer so much today, because as a society, we've overprotected them. We've gone from one extreme to the other extreme. We've had a lot of abuse for young people in the past, but now we've gone to the complete opposite, whereas we don't want our young people to suffer in any way. But, you know, in life, in general, they are the biggest lessons that we learn. So it's really important that those people do. So we introduced the traineeship system in 2013. I think in our first year we had like 13 traineeships. That has grown, and now we deliver in our area, and it is ring fenced to your area. So but all colleges have some kind of provision, or someone has got something in their areas. So if it's something that you want to know more about, let me know, and I can always give you information on that. But the traineeship came in, and that teaches mindset, motivational skills. It teaches them how to behave in the workplace, how to deal with conflict in the workplace. So things that they get actual delivery, as in they come into us 1 or 2 days a week, and then the rest of the time it's in the workplace. Now that workplace is we encourage the employers to give them something, but it doesn't have to be paid. But it's a great way for a young person, if they don't want to go to college, or they don't really know what they want to do, or they don't enjoy being in big environments to do their learning. It's a great way for them to actually get experience in a workplace. And if you work with a good provider, they'll do their utmost to make sure that the place that they get put into is going to give them some really good training. And like, we have proper books that they have to fill in, so we know what they've learned that week. And it also, for the young person, gives them the experience to be able to go out and see if this is what they want to do. So when they do then go on to the apprenticeship afterwards, they know deep in their head that that's what they want to do. And I think it's really important that young people do that. I mean, it took me, I knew at the age of 13 that I wanted to get in the hair and beauty sector, but I was put off by so many people that not to get into it, because it was always like, oh, you know, you're not going to make any money, you work really hard. But I worked hard doing something I loved, and I think, isn't that happiness? And I think that's what people miss. If you're working every day doing something you enjoy, then it's not work. And actually, we all need to be engaged in doing something and enjoying something to be able to be engaged in whatever we do. And if we don't love what we do, what's the point? And, you know, for me, all of that experience has helped me to fail in loads of businesses. You know, I think I counted out the other week, because I was doing a delivery to some young people that, I mean, I always talk about the secret, and I always talk about like motivation and stuff like that right from the beginning. So I was delivering, it was a group of 5, I think, that came in for their induction day, and I was talking, we've just put it right at the beginning, because I think it's really important into our traineeship that they learn very, very much about mindset, because I think that is the key to everything. And without that, they're not going to be able to stick at what they do. But what I was trying to say to them in that is, you can do anything you want in life. Don't let anyone tell you you can't. the only thing that will hold you back is your own beliefs and your own mind. And if you can literally put that to one side, and if I sit in that room and tell a few people how that is, and one person out of that group goes off and, you know, makes a success of themselves, and you know, it was really interesting. They're going on to a traineeship with the idea that once they've done the traineeship, and these are like 16 to 24-year-olds, once they've done the traineeship, they'll have a better indication of where they want to go with their careers, whether it is straight into a job, whether they need to go back to college to learn certain skills, whether it is apprenticeship, is that what they want to do? But they get a chance. And I think as an employer, it's really important that we embrace that, because you know, it's us that were moaning that we couldn't get young people with the right skills. Whereas if you have a traineeship up front, okay, and it can be anything from, I don't know, 6 weeks to 12 weeks, depending on what they're learning, okay. I mean, ours work out about 12 to 17 weeks, although some do it in 6 weeks because they already have some skills already, so we don't have to deliver those skills. But for us, it's really important that that young person knows at the end of it, okay, that's what I really want to do, or now I've learned that. Even if they're working in a restaurant, they're going to be learning about how to speak to people, how to communicate to people, and they can take that learning and then take that to where they really want to go long term. So I think we need to be very mindful as parents and very mindful as businesses that that's why it's so important, because young people today need to actually be able to build how they think, but not just how they think. They need to have those experiences to get them to understand where they want to end up in their lives. So it was a bit of an impromptu live today. I didn't plan it. I just thought, oh, I'm going to go on and talk about it, because I do get asked quite a lot of time about apprenticeships and traineeships, and how important they are. I know that is somewhere I've really concentrated on in the last few years. And there's so many different apprenticeships. I mean, we now deliver to mainly the beauty and hair sector and the wellbeing sector. We deliver everything from level 2, level 3 to level 2 customer service, beauty, hair, business admin, those type of things, right the way to we do level 3 wellbeing, beauty, like I said, lots, and team leading. We deliver level 3 team leading. So if you've got someone within your business that you want to develop as a manager and they're not quite there yet, there's that. And then we've even got a level 4. We just introduced a qualification called level 4 coaching and assessing, and that is all about teaching people within your business how to coach people and then assess how good they are in the workplace, which is a really important thing. And again, it gives salon owners or business owners another revenue stream, because you know, with the apprenticeship schemes now, we've got endpoint assessment, and we're always looking, I know the awarding bodies are always looking for somebody to go out and assess somebody at the end of their qualification to see if they're right. And you know, we need more endpoint assessors to be able to do that. So coaching and the assessing apprenticeships is an ideal, and you can then go out and assess people in the workplace in your vocation that you know, whether it's building, whether it's beauty, whether it's hair, whether it's digital marketing. It's a great one to actually do. And I think if you want to find out about the standards, the great place to go is to go onto the Institute of Apprenticeships. There's so many standards out there, and I'm sure if you take a look, there'll be one that would really fit your business. And once you've done that, then you can then go on to the government website and find out whether there's a provider that can deliver that. And you know, for us, that's been a really great thing to be able to do. And that we have with our traineeships, anyone can do our traineeships. But what we endeavour to do at the end of the traineeship is to find them a training provider for the employer, and vice versa, that we can match up so that they can go off and do the vocation that they want if we don't deliver that apprenticeship. And I think that's really important. And the amount of stories that I can share on here and will be sharing over the next few weeks or months or how long I do this for will show to you just how important it is, and that we get behind it as employers and people. So thank you for everyone that's joined me today. I know it was completely not off the cuff, and I hope you enjoy it, and I will speak to you soon.